I want you to know that the songs that we sing on Sunday mornings are planned probably a couple of months in advance. Do you realize how many songs we sang this morning about heaven?
Yeah.
And about being there?
Yeah.
About when we all get there? The song that we started the day with this morning, there's a particular line in the song. Had anybody ever heard that song, On Georgia Stormy Banks I Stand? It's an old hymn, believe it or not. Just been refashioned a little bit and made it new. And all the 17 and 18-year-olds love it because it's new. It says, no chilling wind or poisonous breath can reach that healthful shore where sickness, pain, sorrow, and death are felt and feared no more.
Yeah.
Are there any more perfect ones today? You know, we're supposed to be finishing up a series on worship and starting a series on discipleship. And here we are kind of stuck in the middle somewhere. And I'm going to be honest with you, this has been a tough week because my mind has gone about 6 billion different directions on just different thoughts and different, well, just different thoughts. We're not going to finish up worship and we're not going to start discipleship today. We're going to stick in the middle somewhere today. There's probably a couple things that we just need to talk about. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know where it's going, but I can tell you where it's coming from. There's a passage that kind of my mind wandered to this week as I was thinking about the events of last Sunday and how the whole day transpired. And first of all, I want to say thank you to each of you because what could have been a very chaotic Sunday morning was a very orderly Sunday morning.
Yeah.
And thank you to those that behind the scenes did what you needed to do. I just feel like it's important that I tell you that here in front of everybody. And I know there's some questions because I've already been asked a couple of questions. To be honest with you, I have questions. How can you stand right there and pray for healing and anoint someone and pray that, God, we trust that you're going to do this, only to have those emotions completely wrecked at 7 o'clock that evening to find out that it's just passed? And I posted a scripture on Facebook, a passage on Facebook Sunday night, that I think I just walked in the door from the hospital. I saw the Nellis post and called her and found out that Mary Ann had passed. And the scripture just popped into my mind, and it's in Isaiah 55, verse 8, starting in verse, no it's not. Yes it is, that's 54. In 55, verse 8, this whole passage in Isaiah is about an invitation to God's salvation, an invitation to the salvation that comes through Jesus. And you know, sometimes there's just things that just don't make sense to us. Sometimes there's things that we question, there's things that we would really like to work one way. God works it out another way. And this passage just blew up in my mind as I was thinking about the events of Sunday. And it says this, my thoughts are nothing like your thoughts, says the Lord. And my ways are far beyond anything you could imagine. For just as the heavens are higher than the earth, so my ways are higher than your ways, and my thoughts are higher than your thoughts. The rain and the snow come down from the heavens and stay on the ground to water the earth. They cause the grain to grow, produce the seed for the farmer and bread for the hungry. It is the same with my word. I send it out and it always produces fruit. His ways are not our ways. Our ways are not his ways. His thoughts are not our thoughts. Our thoughts are not his thoughts. And it's in times like this that I have to say, I am thankful for that.
Amen.
Because our ways sometimes don't make sense. Our ways sometimes are driven with a little bit different motive than what his ways are driven with. And I know a lot of you were here yesterday, and you probably heard some of this yesterday, but I just can't help but think, what's our idea of being healed? What's God's idea of being healed? You know, if I'm sitting face to face with Jesus right now, looking at him and sharing with him, feeling no pain, feeling no understanding of death, is there any victory? I don't think there is. Well, Rosevelle's waving at me right now. It's on a better
Christina's not here. I didn't teach her.
So, children, why don't you guys follow Roosevelt out of children's church? You may visit with her. But that thought has been over and over in my head all week. Why did you not answer our prayer? And then I'm reminded, maybe I did, you just see her. Maybe I did, but my ways are not your ways. Maybe I did, but what you see as healing is not what I see as healing. And I'll be honest, there's comfort in that.
Amen.
Drove me to another passage, thinking about his ways not being our ways. Sort of made me think in a different direction about how selfish we become sometimes in our desires. How selfish we become sometimes in our prayer and what we want. Why do we do that? Why does it, what is in our nature that drives us to do that? Then I was reminded of how Jesus taught us to pray. You know what he says, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your what? Your will be done. On earth as it is in heaven. Not our will be done, but his will. But why in the world is it so hard to trust in his will? And I was taken to another passage in James, chapter 4. This is where I want to spend some time this morning. Turn over there with me. It's chapter 4, starting verse 13. I'll give you a second to get there. But have you ever noticed that it seems like time just seems to pass quicker and quicker? You heard it said that the older you get, the quicker time passes? I used to think that was funny until I started getting older and I realized it was true. You remember the big Y2K scare? Can you believe that was 15 years ago? Do you remember when the guys landed on the moon? I don't. Can you believe that was 50 years ago? Time passes so fast. And if we don't stop and take account of it, it's gone before we realize it. We'll say things like, okay, God, I'll do that tomorrow. I get you, I hear what you're saying, and I'll take care of that tomorrow. What if tomorrow doesn't get here? It's kind of put in front of us last week. We're not guaranteed tomorrow. What if it doesn't get here? What are we doing today to be in his will? I was brought to this passage in James. Read it with me and start at verse 13. Look here, you who say, today or tomorrow we are going to a certain town and we'll stay there for a year. We will do business there and make a profit. How do you know that your life will be like, or how do you know what your life will be like tomorrow? Your life is like the morning fall. It's here a little while, then it's gone. What you ought to say is, if the Lord wants us to, we will live or do this or do that. Otherwise, you're boasting about your own pretentious plans, and all such boasting is evil. Remember, it is sin to know what you ought to do, and then not do it. That last verse kind of bugs me. We'll get there in a minute. So look at this verse. It's pretty pointed. It's a cautionary verse, if you will. It's telling us to take heed to some things. Take heed to the fact that you don't know what tomorrow's going to be.
Yeah.
You don't know what this afternoon's going to be. But we know what right now is. What are we doing right now to live in his will? What are we doing right now to do what he's asked us to do? And I think there's probably a couple of other reasons that we can draw out of this. And you know, think back over your life. Think back over some that aren't in here anymore, that are over in the gym. They're 8 or 9 years. Some of us are 80 or 90 years. The technological advances that have happened in your lifetime, the way information is presented, the way things that are what we thought were absolutes have changed to be questioned. over the years. Do you realize how fast information gets out to people? How many of you have Facebook? It's okay, you can admit it. Why aren't we friends? How many of you have email? How many of you text? You better raise your hand. I got a text from Alicia a couple of weeks ago about a heart attack. How many of you have a computer that you can get on www dot whatever? www dot, this will get me in trouble. Information travels so fast that in a lot of ways we've become selfish. In a lot of ways we've become so self-confident in our abilities. Look what we've done, kind of as a society, that we've lost sight of the fact that all of this was God's in the first place.
Amen.
Everything that we've taken and we've grown, everything that we've taken and we've put together and made something bigger, all the rocket pieces that we developed to shoot somebody to the moon and bring them back, all of the technology it took us to save the guys when it didn't work like it was supposed to, all of the technology that we put in place to even create the internet, to be able to talk, nothing's new. We just refashioned what God gave us to put it to a purpose. But look what we did. We get a little bit too big-headed. We get a little bit too proud.
Yeah.
We get a little bit too cocky. We get way too confident. And the writer of James is saying, how do you know what your life's going to be like tomorrow? He says, here's the reality. Your life is like a morning fog. It's here a little while, then it's gone. What you ought to say, here's the swift kick in the rear today, the reminder of who we really are, the reminder of our place where it really should be. What you ought to say is if the Lord wants us to, we will live and do this or do that. Otherwise, we're just bragging. Otherwise, we're just boasting about our own pretentious plans. And he says all such boasting is evil. There's a tough word. All such boasting is evil. What does it mean to just be a mist, though? What does it mean to only be here a little while? You know, I would love to be able to look at a crystal ball and know the date that I'm going to leave this earth.
Yeah.
It might scare me, because it could be tomorrow. But I'd love to know. Would it change the way you live your life if you knew that? I mean, be honest. Would it change what you do if you knew the time was short? Would some things become a little more important? Would other things be a little less important if you knew how short time was? Or if you knew that you had another 50 or 60 years? Some of his knees are going, 50 or 60 more years? Are you kidding me? So why do that? It's your knees, isn't it? But why would it change? Would it change because we're living for us? Or should it change at all if we're living for Him? Should it change at all if His will is first? Here's the deal with His will. There's a lot of places that you read about God's will in our life. I told you, we talked about it already. Jesus even taught us how to pray, Father, your will be done. Why is it so important that we talk about His will? Turn to 1 Corinthians real quick. 1 Corinthians chapter 15. Listen to this. For the scriptures say, verse 25, sorry. For Christ must reign until He humbles all His enemies beneath His feet. And the last enemy to be destroyed is death. For the scriptures say, God has put all things under His authority. Of course, when it says all things under His authority, that does not include God Himself, who gave Christ His authority. Then when all things are under His authority, the Son will put Himself under God's authority, so that God who gave His Son authority over all things will be utterly supreme over everything, everywhere. You want to know why we're supposed to follow God's will? You want to know why His will is so important in our life? Is because everything we do is under His authority. everything that's ever been created or ever will be created is under his authority. He says even death is under his authority. The implication is death hasn't been defeated yet. We know that because we're still walking the earth. We know that because we still have to live in a life that can end. But when all of his enemies are defeated, we don't have to worry about walking in his will anymore because we'll be living with him perfectly
Amen.
in a new place, in a new life that is what promises us. But we're not there yet. But in the meantime, everything is under his authority. Think back to Moses back in Deuteronomy. Have you ever been able to wrap your mind around the concept that God has always been and always will be? You know, we tend to measure things by a beginning and an end, right? We tend to measure things by some sort of standard of measure. When we get outside of something that we can see, when we get outside of something that's measurable, it starts to sort of blow our minds. Have you ever been able to wrap your mind around the concept that God has ever not existed? I haven't. I mean, just when you think you've got it figured out, yeah, there it goes again. If we were able to figure it out, we wouldn't be able to submit to his authority. Think about that. If we were able to figure him out, would he really be supreme to us? No. But it's a concept that is amazing. It's a concept that in a lot of ways doesn't make sense, but the reality is God's not bound by time. He proved this to Moses. He told Moses to go do some things back in Deuteronomy. And you know, he sent him to destroy his enemy several times. But in this particular case, he told them when they ask you who's coming, who did he say to tell them is coming? The I am. He didn't say the I was is coming. He didn't say the I'm going to be is coming. He said the I am. God is not bound by time. He's limitless. How would you feel about serving a God that has an end? How would you feel about having a creator of everything that we are that gives us his will in our life, knowing that we may end before we do? That's a scary thought. He told Moses to say, the I am is coming. 6,000, 7,000 years later, however you want to do the math, the I am is still the one that wills us to do what he wants us to do. Because he is all authority. He has everything under his control. But here's the part that troubles me, and it's that last verse of James chapter 5, or chapter 4. Remember, it is sin to know what you ought to do and then not do it. I think probably the reality that has hit me the most this week is the reality of the first part of that. Your life is like a fog. It's here a little while, it's gone. We don't know what tomorrow brings. We don't even know what this afternoon brings. Never in a million years did I imagine sitting right there talking to Mary Ann last Sunday that we would be saying goodbye yesterday. That we would be saying goodbye that evening. Never in a million years would we think about that. What we're promised is right now. What we're promised in his word is that he is with us right now. What we're promised in his word is that if we follow him right now, he won't let us down. What we're promised in his word is that if we follow him right now, we'll be content in the right now. What we're promised is that if we follow him right now, we won't have to worry about our pretentiousness. We won't have to worry about our self-centeredness. We won't have to worry about our conceitedness because we're living totally in him. And that's probably the thought that's hit me the most this week, is how many hours does your crystal ball say that you have left? How many hours does my crystal ball say that I have left? And am I doing everything that I know he's asking me to do? Am I living life the way that I know he wants me to live it? Am I truly putting his will first? Or am I putting my will first? Do I wake up in the morning and say, this is what I'm going to do? Or do I wake up in the morning and say, God, what do you want me to do? Now, yeah, there's a reality that you got to go hit the time clock. for those of us that are still working. There's the reality that there's schedules of the day that have to be met. There's the reality that there's just things in life that have to be taken care of. I get that. But outside of those times, are we really doing all that God wants us to do? Are you really doing all that He wants you to do? Or do we have all the excuses? Are we going into town to do business and to make a profit? Are we going to take care of it tomorrow? Or we can take care of it today? You know, there's a harsh reality in life that when the day comes that our last breath is there, none of what we're going to do matters. None of all the good stuff that we hoped to do ever matters. So, in thinking about everything that's happened this week, it's really kind of challenged me to take a long, hard look at me and say, Pastor, are you doing this for you? Are you doing this for me? I've had to rethink a couple of things, I'll be honest with you. But I want you to know, and I hope that it's your prayer also, that I don't want to get me out of the way. And I want His supremacy to say, I am in your life, not the I want to be in your life. It's never easy to say goodbye to someone that we love. It's never easy to say goodbye unexpectedly. It's never easy to not have questions answered that we want answered in the way that we want answered. And I'll tell you something else, it's also not easy to follow His will. But can I challenge you, just like I've challenged myself this week, to do a little bit of a reality check. And just ask yourself, am I in this for me, or am I in this for Him? Can you do that this week? And it's my belief, and it's a comfort thought maybe, that I just can't help but think this would excite Mary Ann. To know that through losing her, you rattled somebody.
Amen.
Through losing her, it gained somebody else.
Amen.
To give you an opportunity this morning, Alicia, I don't even have a song in mind. I don't even know what would be an appropriate song. Maybe you do. Maybe one of the old faithfuls, like I Surrender All, would be an appropriate one this morning. I'm challenging this morning. Stand with me. The standing's not the challenge part, by the way. What are you doing with whatever days you have left? What are you doing with whatever hours you have left? Are they for you, or are they for Him? And I'll tell you, as your pastor, I'm going to come down here and I'm going to pray that they would be His and not mine. I'm just going to ask you to join me, if there's any that would. Just refocus yourself, challenge yourself to say, God, thanks for shaking me a little. Thanks for rattling me a little. Let's do this for Him and not for us. Anybody care to join me this morning?